I guess I should start off by introducing myself. Okay, my name is Ariel. I am 24. I'll be 25 September 18th. If y'all watched my get to know me tag video, my first video, I explained like my birthday, sign, everything. But I'm 24. And this is a video of me talking about my cancer journey, something that's very near and dear, sacred to my heart, a bittersweet moment in life. I wouldn't really change, so we can get started. Yeah, I was attending Ball State University, fashion design major. I was 20, so I was home, just got home for the summer break. And I was at McAllister's with my mom and my brothers. And you know, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I was looking at the menu and I like was standing there and I'm like, and then I turned, and when I turned, I felt a mask. The mask was probably from about here to here. It was huge. It was solid as a rock. Like, it was not moving. And I'm like, Mom, do you feel this? So my mom like touching around on it. She's like, oh, we'll call your aunt when we get home and see, because she's a nurse. So I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, I didn't think nothing of it. So when I got home, when we got home later that evening, we were I was just laying in the room chilling, and my mom had called her and they were just going back and forth about it, and she's like examining it, like touching around my neck, feeling it out, seeing like what it is. So I'm like, all right. So mom's like, you need to go and you need to get to the urgent care clinic. You need to go to the urgent care clinic tomorrow ASAP. Like, don't wait, don't nothing. I'm like, all right, I guess I could do that, because I wasn't doing anything at the time. I wasn't working because I was just home for the summer. Yeah, so the next day, my brother had 8th grade formal and I went to go to the urgent care, and I walk in and she's like, how can we help you? And I'm like, yeah, I have this thing on my neck and it doesn't hurt or anything, and I just want to like get it checked out. And she's like, okay. So they get me back there and the lady's like, oh, so let's take a look. You know, they take your weight, your blood pressure, all of that stuff. And the lady's like, oh, let's take a look. And I go in there and she sits, and I turn my head and I just remember her eyes going like getting big. I remember her eyes getting so big, and she was just like feeling around, and she was like, you're in no pain? I'm like, no. She's like, you been eating fine? I'm like, yeah, I just ate. She's like, you're not sleepy, like you're not what's that word, stuff like that. She's just asking me questions, and the answer was no. Like, I felt completely fine. I felt normal, like as ever. Like, I had been at school living my best life. Like, nothing would have made me think to like touch my neck like on the side. Like, I hadn't done it. So I'm like, I feel totally fine. So she left and she goes and get another lady, and the lady's just like, and she's like, oh, it's solid, like it doesn't hurt. I'm like, no, it's actually like kind of making me like make me giggle, because it's like on my neck. I'm like, that's a little tickle spot. So after she go get the other lady, then like 2 more people came in there. I'm like, and they all just like looking at me like I'm a science project. I'm like, this is awkward. It's just a little bump. Like, so the entire time I'm thinking like I probably just have a cyst. Like, it's just a little cyst. So then she's like, we're gonna have you go to the hospital, Eskenazi, for emergency CT scan. I'm like, okay. So it's a CT and a PET scan, which one of them is like from your lower stomach up, and then the other one is like from like your knees up, but the machines are all the same. I I don't know if I have a picture of the machine, but if I do, I can really show y'all. I did that, and you know, they give you an IV. You got to sit there for a while and like just let it run its course until you go back. So I go in a room, and it's like this big, like long machine, and it's like a big circle and like a little skinny bed, and it just moves you back and forth. I'm like, this is so awkward. And I'm like, okay. And so the dude was like, yeah, so you're just gonna take your jacket off, and you're gonna lay here, and you have to lay like with your arms above your head and with your feet out. So I'm like, all right. So I get in the machine, we do it, whatever. And then I just left. I'm like, okay. So I call my mom. I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way back to your job, because her job was down the street from the first clinic that I went to. So I'm like, all right. So we get to her clinic. It's me and my sister was there, because at the time she worked there, and then some more people that were in the room. So it was really just like a waiting game for the results. We were just sitting around waiting on the call. So the lady calls me. She's like, hi, is this Miss Boyd? I'm like, yes. So she's like, we don't want to really jump to conclusions, but most likely it's cancer. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm sorry, but I was just lost. I'm like, cancer? Are you serious? I was just thinking it was a little cyst. Like, I didn't think it was all of that. And she's like, oh yeah. I'm like, all right. So then we go to just chilling around. So from there on, you know, they're like, oh, we're gonna have a biopsy. We're gonna schedule you for a biopsy appointment, another scan, and get you scheduled with the oncologist, stuff like that. I'm like, okay. I've never heard of none of this stuff before, because I'm not familiar with cancer. Like, I don't know anything about it. Not to say I was like ignorant towards the towards cancer, but I just never saw fit, like, or had a reason to just go and do my research, because as naive as it might sound, you know, you never think it's gonna be you, so there's no reason for you to go and know about it. I mean, unless you have family members who've had it, but I haven't had family members that I know personally that has made me want to go and do research. So there's never been a reason for me to go and research anything cancer related. So yeah, after that I had to go to Atlanta for graduation, and that day I was really just, from the time that I did the scan and everything all the way until I was in Atlanta. Then when I came back, I had to go to the biopsy. I think that time was probably the one time throughout the entire process that I was truly sad. Like, I was not myself within those couple weeks. I think it was like 2 weeks. Like, I was just sad. Like, I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I hope I don't have cancer. I hope I'm not sick. Like, I hope nothing's wrong with me. I hope it's really just a cyst, because that's what I really kept telling myself. I'm like, it's just a cyst. But I'm like, dang, like, you know, that thought in the back of your head is still like, what if? So that was really me, like, my thought process. So fast forward, I go to the biopsy. Now, biopsy was really, it wasn't funny, but to me, I thought, like, I was in there laughing, but I just thought it was a crazy experience. My mom and my granddaddy had went with me to the biopsy. And I just remember sitting in the hallway, and my granddaddy's like, why are they taking so long? So you go in the room, and the room is like small, and it's a bathroom in there, and you have the nurse, and they like prep you on everything. So I had to lay on the table on my right side, so the left side of my neck could be facing up, and then they put like a cloth over you a little bit, and then they give you like numbing medicine, like with needle in your neck. The first doctor came in, he was like a little short Indian man. I'm like, oh god, I don't know what to expect. And then from there on, like 13 other doctors came in there. They were all just looking like they take I I don't even know what the tool is called, but it's like a tool, and they just go in and poke and grab tissue and everything to stab at the side of my neck. So it was just weird, and I'm just laying there, and it was close to my jugular. So when they were like poking me, I was laughing, but it was just a weird experience because I'm like, it's about 16 doctors in here all getting tissue and looking at this one little thing. So I met with the oncologist, and like we were getting settled in about everything. He was like, you know, we're gonna get blood work and you know, weight, all of that stuff, so we can figure out what it is. And then from the biopsy results and the scans, because I had to do another scan, the full body scan, we'll be able to tell like if it is cancer, where it's at, the stage, all of that. I'm like, all right, okay, it's gonna be a breeze. So then we waited about a week, and he called us in. He's like, all right, we got the results in. And he was like, so the good news is it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. You got Hodgkin's and you have non-Hodgkin's, which unfortunately I haven't really done my research on Hodgkin's, but it was non-Hodgkin's is what I had. So he was like, that's the good news. And he was like, nobody wants cancer, but if you get cancer, this is the cancer you want, because it's not the hardest, and it's the best cancer to have. Like, even though no cancer is good to have, it's the best cancer to have. So I'm like, okay. So he was like, but the bad news is it's stage 4. Like, stage 4. Like, in that moment, I didn't really know what to think. My mom, who was obviously at every appointment with me, say, hey, say Snapchat. I just remember looking at her like, did he just say what I think he said? Like, this is crazy. And like, I didn't get emotional right off the bat, but she did. Like, my mom do not cry. Anybody that knows my mom knows she's straight G. Like, ain't no tears. Like, you're never gonna see her cry or anything. So like, she just started crying, and it just made me cry, because I'm like, this is crazy. My first instinct was like, I could really die. Like, stage 4, you know, that's the very last stage. Like, there's no, I don't think there's anything after 4. So once 4 come, like, you gotta get the ball rolling, because I'm like, okay, stage 4. And I just remember her crying, and she like had to step out, and it was just the doctor, the oncologist, and I in the room, and I looked at him, and I was like, and he was like, just tell me what you're thinking. And I'm like, I just want to ask you a question, and I really want you to be honest with me. He's like, okay, go ahead. And I'm like, do you think I can beat it? And he was like, considering the fact that you have no symptoms, like, I didn't have a clue that that was even going on with me. He's like, considering the fact you have no symptoms, like, you're in here, you're good, you're healthy, like, everything's cool with you. He was like, I'm 100% sure, like, you'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, let's go. Like, what we gotta do, because I'm like, I guess I'm ready. Like, we just gonna do. Like, I was unsure in that moment before he spoke those words, but once he said it, I'm like, all right, we got this. So I was, after that, you know, that's just the faith that I needed, because I'm like, if this man, you know, thinks I'm gonna be okay, then I'll be okay. And you know, a lot of doctors, not doctors, the medical field, I'm gonna say, to me, we are a check to the medical field. So they gotta keep you sick so they can keep getting paid. And this situation kind of taught me that, not for myself personally, but from those around me. And I'm like, okay. But it was just something about his reassurance and him being completely confident, like the way he said it. I'm like, all right, because you know, sometimes you do have doctors that are like, no. But when we was just the two of us, and I asked him that question and he gave me his answer, I felt it, like, okay, like I believed him. So that was kind of the push that I needed to keep me like, all right, we got this, like, let's go. So because I was 20, you know, 18 is legal age of an adult, so I had to sign my own paperwork saying like I consent to chemotherapy. He was coming up with the treatment plan and figuring out which medication would be the best medication for me. He was like, I have to have a meeting with a nurse so she could go over the type of treatment it would be, the risks, things like that, and I have to sign stuff. So we did that like a couple days later, and then they give you a treatment date and you got to get your port installed and everything. So then like the next week I had to get my port installed, which I still have. You might not be able to see it, but this is the port. We got my scar. It hurt. Oh my god, that surgery, it hurt so bad. Like the next day, it literally feels like it feels like your boob weighs like 2 tons. It hurts so bad. But the port is how they transport the chemotherapy into your body. So when you go to chemo, they put this really thick needle in, and excuse me, the needle is about this thick and it's about that long, and they push it into the port, which the port is like a triangular shape with like a pad, and then it has tubes running through it, so the tubes will run through your body, and when they put it through the port, it'll just run through the tubes. I still have it. I know what it looks like. And they also use it to draw blood because you have to get blood work regularly, multiple times a week. It is the norm, and it happens. So once we got the port installed, I think it was a week goes by for it to heal, you know, and then the first day of chemo started. How chemo went: I go at 7 in the morning every other Thursday. So I go at 7. You go back, you get your weight, your blood pressure, everything. They have to draw your blood, so the nurse cleans me up, cleans the port, yada yada, gets it ready, pumps the blood through it. They use what is it called? They use the cleaner, the medical cleaner that they always use to, you know, clean the blood out your tube. They use that, which made me sick the entire time I went through treatment. So it was not the finest hour for me. But they do that. They have to send your blood work off. Once they take your blood samples, they send it off to the lab. It takes about 45 minutes because you have to get approved for your treatment every Thursday. So when your blood work goes back, if it looks good, they'll proceed. If it doesn't, they won't proceed. But I never had that issue. But that was proper protocol that they did follow. So you have to do that. Once they got your blood work on, the nurses comes in, and you know, your typical machine that the bags go on. They just hook the bags up to the end of the cord that's from the port, and the medicine from the bags just flow right through the port. And I had a treatment that was called ABDV or ABCV, something along that nature. And I have this red medicine that they call like the red devil, red demon. It makes any fluid that comes out of your body red. So like your urine, your tears when you cry, saliva, everything literally be red until the treatment's over. It did kind of make me sleepy the very first day, but you know, it takes time. But my first treatment was it was smooth. Like, I wasn't tired after. I was still good because, you know, it was taking my body time to get used to it. I remember not being excited, but that day it was like detrimental, because I'm like, all right, like, this is the journey, it begins. I had 6 rounds, 2 treatments a round, so 12 treatments total. 6 and then 2 in each, so it was 12 every other Thursday. And it went from, let me see, May, June, all right, from July to November was my last, the end of November after Thanksgiving was my last treatment. And it was I don't know, like it was a lot. In the beginning it was easy. I think it started to get hard maybe after this, like at the halfway mark. That's when I would have my mornings when it's time for to get up and go, and I'm like, I do not want to go to this, like, ugh, I just don't want to go. And then the saline, which is what they use to clean you out, it's the saline, that's the name. It made me sick whenever it was time for them to clean out my port, so I would throw up every single morning. And I wouldn't usually eat before I went because I didn't want to like throw up all the food and then be hungry again. So I would just like let it run its course and get food after. And then I would sit in a private room. My mom would always sit in there with me. I had some visitors, like my sister would come. Y'all, look who bought me some food to chemo. Yeah. My uncle was here from Georgia. It was a hard little task towards the halfway mark, but other than that, it was like an indescribable, like kind of like you had to be in it to really understand it. When I had to go to the restroom, I would have to just walk with the little with the little machine with me. Nobody could use our restrooms in the chemo wing. Like if you were a visitor, like not being treated, you had to go somewhere else because they really wanted to keep us sanitary. And this is way before COVID, so you don't really have to wear a mask, because they will always recommend like the me, because I was the one getting chemo, like if I go out in public or around kids and stuff, to wear a mask. I didn't do it, I ain't gonna lie. Like I didn't wear a mask, but I wasn't really around kids a lot because kids have a lot of germs, and my doctor's like, you can't afford to have a cold, the flu, pneumonia, nothing while you're fighting this, because your body can't really fight too. So I did what I had to do to not be sick. But I think the kicker was once school started back, I wasn't able to go back, so I just was supposed to sit at home and do nothing. And it took a toll on me because I'm like, I don't want to do this every day. Like, no, I didn't really get emotional because it wasn't really, to me, it was just like, you're fighting to be here, you're fighting to stay alive, because, you know, when you 20 years old, you feel like you got the world figured out, like you got everything figured out, mapped out your whole life, you're gonna be this, you're gonna be that. And then I'm like, oh, can't go to school no more. And I was in school for fashion design because Muncie is far away, and my doctor just was like, he wouldn't really feel comfortable with me being that far away, especially from my parents. He's like, you never know what could happen during this process, so it's pretty detrimental that you're close to home, so you just have to sit this one out. I'm like, that's fucking great. Like, just a whole year off of school. Like, I literally had this whole plan. Like, I thought I was gonna go to school, and you know, when you're a fashion design major, that school, they go to like Milan and New York, like they do so much. I wanted to do all of that, and then it was like, you can't come back. So I had to call, and I had signed the lease down there for me to live in an apartment with my friends the next year. So they gave me the runaround about that. Like, the people were not trying to let me out of the lease before we even moved in. I'm like, I'm literally sick, like I'm not coming back. Same thing with the school. I had to call and say, hey, y'all can take me off y'all roster, I won't be back. And he's like, yep, no work, no school, no nothing. I'm like, I can't sit at home every day for 6 months and do nothing. Like, that's crazy. I didn't have a car, I ain't have no money, I ain't have nothing. Like, my car had literally just, the transmission had just went out, so I was like, to hell with it. So I was just kind of sad because I'm like, what is life? Like, what am I gonna do for 6 months? Like, I can't do this. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll just go to school after. And you know, most of the time when people take a break or take a gap year from school, they don't end up going back. So my biggest fear was not being able, like, getting too comfortable and not going back to school, but it didn't end up being the case because the whole time that I was down, I'm like, I can't wait to be back in school. Like, I know what I'm majoring in, yada yada, this and that. I had hopes of going back to Ball State to finish the fashion design major, but that didn't happen. Around the third treatment, my hair started to fall out. And my biggest concern was like, fuck, I'm not gonna have no eyebrows. Like, I know that probably sounds so bad, but when you see a lot of people with cancer, they don't, like, they literally lose everything. And I had just like did a big chop. I was doing natural, everything. So I was like, wow. I went swimming, I went cliff diving one weekend with my friends. And after that, I went to wash my hair and it was just coming out in chunks. I was like, well, you might as well just go to the barbershop and get it cut. So you won't completely bald, but you'll have like a little buzz cut. And I'm like, hell no, I don't want to do that. No, But I realized like I didn't want to have like bald spots, like patches from it falling out, whatever. So like, what was it? I started falling out that Sunday. I think that Tuesday I went to just go get it cut off. And I felt so self-conscious. I was like, I do not like this. Like, I just felt like I did not look cute. And everybody was like, oh my God, you look so cute. Look at you. I'm like, no, this is not cute. I don't like this. So that was kind of hard for me. And my mom, which I didn't know, she was like, I think that was the hardest thing for her, is to watch my hair fall out. And she was like, I literally got in the car and I went and I cried, drove around and I cried for hours. I'm like, where? I did not know this. Like, this is crazy. But she was like, that was the hardest part for her. It was probably the hardest part for me too, because I was falling in love with my natural hair. Like, so I was like, dang, I'm just falling in love with you, getting used to you, like, and growing to love you, and now you're gone. Like, it was hard. I was like, I don't like this. Like, I'm gonna grow my hair back. I can't wait till I'm done. I was just praying my eyebrows did not fall off, because I don't know how to do eyebrows. So I was like, damn, if my eyebrows fall off, I'm screwed. Like, I'm gonna be, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was like, if my eyebrows fall off, I'm not leaving the house. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, and then I'm gonna really look sick. Like, no, I wasn't doing it. But luckily they didn't fall off. Some hair did come out. Like, now when I look at myself now versus then, I can see that they were like thinning out. So I was like, whoo, glad they stopped treatment when they did, because I did not want to not have eyebrows. That was not gonna be hot, like, at all. My chest got like dark marks and all of this stuff. I didn't like that. My hands and my fingernails and my feet and my toenails all turned black. Like, the medicine would make my hands and feet black, so like I would keep my nails done. Like, I started getting my nails done, keeping my nails done to not have to look at like my black fingernails, and I would keep my feet done also, because it would make me self-conscious. And then with somebody who I would run into that didn't know, like, I'm going through it at the time, they would be like, why are your nails black? Or do you do hair? Or why are your hands black? I'm like, I have cancer. I don't know what more you want me to say. Like, and then they would feel bad. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's not, because I really didn't look like I had cancer. You would just think I was a girl with a low haircut. Like, I didn't look like what I was going through. And it wasn't really a hard time for me, because I kept my spirits up, and to me that was the most important thing about it. Like, not being sad and pitying myself, because what am I doing that for? Like, I had to sit down and really like talk to myself and give myself a pep talk, because right before I started treatment, I think it was the one time that I actually sat and cried. As I thought about it, I'm like, man, I'm probably really gonna die. Like, I don't want to go through this. Like, I was really scared. Like, I remember calling my friend Shelby, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is scary, like maybe I should just give up already before treatment even start. And she like, no, like you got this and you can do it. Like, just don't think like that, stuff like that. I remember calling my dad crying. My dad like, ain't no need to cry, because we gonna get through this and God got you. Like, it's just that simple. I'm like, man, I'm terrified. And then I sat there and I was just like going through some website or group I found on the internet, and it was a bunch of people who beat cancer. And I'm like, okay, well maybe it's not what I'm thinking it is. So that was the one time I cried, and from that day forward I never feel sorry for myself. I never cried. I never did none of that. And I personally did not like for people to be around me sad or like trying to pity me or like, oh, you okay? Like, I did not. If you're gonna be like that, please just don't come around me, because I was not that person. I am not that person. Like, I'm like, what? I'm chilling. Like, if you would have been around me in that moment, I'm cracking jokes, I'm laughing, like everything's funny to me. Like, I was really just living. Like, I wasn't letting it get me down. I'm like, oh yeah, girl, I gotta go to chemo tomorrow. Like, but after that, you know, we right back at it again, like with the jokes and the giggles. Like, I'm gonna be asleep for a couple days because I'm gonna be tired. That medicine gonna put me out, but we gonna get back to it, like straight laughing. And I didn't really like people around me that was sad, so I kind of think like, from my mom talking about she did all this crying behind closed door, I'm like, I never seen it, because I just didn't really want people to be sad. What you sad for? Like, we gonna be good. It's not gonna be nothing. In a couple of years, it's gonna be water under the bridge. Like, that's really what it was for me. So I think that was most important, because I'm like, if I gotta be strong for everybody around me, because as soon as they start to see that I'm, you know, folding and I'm not strong, like everybody else gonna get to folding. And around November, it started to get a little difficult because my grandpa died. He died right before my last treatment, and I remember being, I was okay with him not being here no more, because we had talks about it, and I was okay with that because he was okay with that. But I think I was more so hurt because the one person who I expected to be here forever wasn't here anymore. And then I'm like, dang, you had to go right before I got to ring that bell, me finishing my last treatment. And I was kind of hurt because I really wanted to experience that with him, because he got to come to most of my treatments. Like, I think he came out of the 12, I think he came to 8. Like, he was there the whole way. He would always come to my house, everything. So I'm like, man, we gonna ring that bell, we gonna get through it. He was like, you gonna be all right? Like, he was just cool with everything. So I'm like, well, now that you're not here, it's not the same, because I really wanted him to witness that, because it was important to him and it was important to me, but he didn't get to. And I'm like, I guess I gotta go and be okay with the memories we do got. So I think that was the hardest for me, because I never lost anybody that close to me. And I'm like, I gotta lose you at such a detrimental time in life too. Like, I'm going through this crazy journey and I'm so young, like, and then I'll have you. And it was just crazy. I turned 21 in September, and it was like, my family tried to make it a really good birthday, like take me to the bar and stuff. But I had already had plans before I was sick. I'm like, oh, it's my 21st. Like, I don't even drink, but I'm gonna drink. Like, we gonna do this. We gonna have a party. We gonna do that. Like, I think I literally had chemo right before, the same week of my birthday. So I was tired, but I did go to dinner. And then my family was like, oh, let's go to the bar. Couldn't even have a drink, because you can't drink while you're on it. Like, you get really, really, really bad stomach pain. So I'm like, okay, yeah, can't do that. And I told my mom, I was like, I don't want to sound like ungrateful because I appreciate everything that y'all did, you know, trying to make me feel special. But this is the worst birthday I think I've ever had. And you know, your 21st is supposed to be lit, like popping. I'm like, this is the worst 21st birthday I've ever had. Grateful to be here, but this sucks. Like, this is not how you should spend your 21st. Like, I don't like this. It was not, but it was the worst birthday I've ever had. I was like, this is horrible. I don't know. But I did really appreciate my mom for trying to make it very special for me, or make sure I had a good time. But I was just like, yeah, no, this is not it. My cousin has sent some bracelets that said Ariel Strong, and some other things on there, and he sent a bag of them, and I was selling them for $1, and I made like $500 off those bracelets. He sent them for my birthday, and it was nice. I really appreciated it. I still have a few just to keep for my own personal keepsake, but I appreciated that. That was a good birthday gift for me. Okay, so I got bracelets that say Ariel Strong and Fight on both sides, pink and black. So if y'all want one, just hit me up. But it was just a detrimental time. Like, I had went through a lot, and then my mom's job decided to fire her, so it was a lot like that. Then her father died, and I'm sick, and then it was a lot. I personally kept strong because I wanted everybody else around me to keep their game face on, you know. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't oh, don't be sad at all type of thing, but I'm like, let's just sit back here, enjoy the time we do have together, think about what we got already and just be grateful for it, then let's roll. I'm like, this is probably just God literally trying to show us, like, hey, I'm here, use me. Like, I'm showing you this is why you need me. And I learned from that, because I'm like, I'm not the biggest spiritual person. I do believe in God, and I know that, like, manifesting and praying and all that will help, and it will lift spirits. And I wasn't as frequent with it as I should have been, and I felt like that was his way of getting my attention, to let him know, like, I'm here, I got you, like, just lean on me. And it gave me a different outlook on life. So I was like, okay, from that day forward, like, once I was declared in remission, I rung the bell, everything, I'm like, we just gonna give him all the praise, because it was just a trying time. There was some days towards the end where I didn't really want to go. I was tired of going because I would just be so sleepy, and I would get out of treatment and sleep for days, like 3 days straight. I'm just sleep, and I was on steroids, so I wasn't losing weight, I was gaining weight, and it was difficult for me, because I'm like, I don't even want to buy clothes, I don't want to get dressed, I don't want to do nothing. I just was wearing like big t-shirts, sweatpants. I was not getting cute. I did not want to go nowhere. Like, I'm like, this is a cool, like, I'm cool, I'm not sad or nothing, but like physically I was just, it was like a crisis for me. Like, what is going on? Like, my body was changing. I would be so sore to touch, like, from my feet to my head. Like, you don't touch my hand even like a little, because it would hurt. It was a lot. But I am grateful for it. It wasn't the easiest or the best, but I wouldn't, if I could go back in time and change it, I wouldn't, because it made me much stronger. Like, without it, I don't even know life before it because it was just such a weird time, and I felt like this was meant to be. It was supposed to be life. I wouldn't go back and change it. And I know a lot of people are around me, the very few people who were there for me during the start to finish, like the whole process, probably be like, well, you crazy, I wish that had never happened. But I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change not one thing about the process, because it really built me, like made me stronger. It made me have a different outlook on life. I just look at everything in the positive light. I don't take nothing for granted. I'm grateful for everything I got, everything I'm gonna get. It's just a different feeling. Like, it's bittersweet. Like, it was sad you had to go through that, but like, look at you now. Like, I complained about my hair, got a head full, like eyebrows still intact. I'm in school, about to graduate next spring. It's just a lot of things that I'm grateful for and appreciative for, and I just wouldn't trade the process for nothing. I did meet a couple people who have been through it and were going through it at the same time as me. I met one lady, I think she was about 60, and she was like, I was diagnosed when I was 16 with stage 4, and she had to go through radiation and chemotherapy, which I just had to do chemotherapy, not radiation. And she was like, I was still in high school at the time. I was going through that, so I still had to like go to school, get my work done when I was tired, this and that. And I'm like, how are you now? Like, how are you doing now? She's like, I'm 60 years old and I haven't had any problems since. Like, I'm fine. I'm like, all right. That's what I like to hear. Gave me a lot of confidence, built me up. I had met one girl through Twitter who was going through the same thing. I think she called hers as stage 3. And she beat it, and then I think she caught it again, was diagnosed again in the first stage, and she beat it again, and I think she just had twins. Yeah. I haven't talked to her in a while, but I think she just had twins, and I was like, girl, that's so good. I love that for you, because that is a difficult thing to try and figure out once you've been through chemo. I'm so naive. I'm not so unaware, if that makes sense. I'm very different. Obviously I'm going to be different because I was 21 at the time. I'm now 24, about to be 25 soon. So it's a different outlook, but it feels like it was literally just yesterday. But so much has changed. A lot of people disappointed me in the process, but I didn't let it get to me. Still love people regardless of their faults, because everybody is not aware of the situation or the severity of having cancer or being sick. So it was difficult, but I'm still very, very grateful for that. So yeah. So I asked my social media on Instagram and people close to me, I told them they could ask me some questions that, you know, they were curious about, that they wanted to answer. So I'm gonna read a few and answer it. I picked out 15, so we can just answer those questions. So the first question is, what was your worst experience with chemo? I would say the worst part about it, or it wasn't really like a worst experience. I think the worst part about it as a whole was me always getting sick from the saline when they would clean my port, like, and just throwing up. Like, it was not fun, and I hated that part. Like, it was the worst to me. And then I just didn't really like how the aftermath of it would make me feel, because in the first couple treatments I would be fine, but like once we got towards from like the 4th treatment all the way to the very last, I would literally go to sleep in the car and then literally sleep for like 3 days at a time. Like, I would just be so tired. Obviously, it's one of the side effects, being tired, your body being weak, everything. But I just think that those were some of the worst experiences for me with it. I didn't really too much care for it. It just made me not want to do it. So that was it for me. The next one says, how was your family and friends support while you had cancer? For me, one thing is that my definition of family changed with this experience, because a lot of the people whom have been in my life since birth, before birth, when they were cool with just my mom. Like, a lot of people don't, I'm not gonna say they don't know how to deal with it. It's either like they don't know how to deal with it or they choose not to deal with it. I lost friendships during this time because, you know, when you are a friend, this is a detrimental time and you should be there for your friend. And, you know, unfortunately for me, I didn't really get to too much experience that, so I did lose some friendships during this time. And then my family, I'm not gonna say wasn't there, but a lot of them could have done better, should have done better. My whole outlook on family is different because majority of the people who were there for me or people who aren't blood related to me, who are people that I haven't known forever, probably just a couple years, and that to me spoke a lot of volumes. But you know, it's life. You can't hold people on the pedestal, because when you hold people to a pedestal, that's how you get let down. So to me, it definitely show you who down the ride, and it definitely show you who's there for you and who love you like they say you do, and they also show you who do not. So it is a it sucks, but it's like sometimes I feel like that situation was needed because it'll put things in perspective for you. So, you know, a lot of people who you think is your A1 from day one, when that time come, you gonna learn that they're not. And it sucks, but it is what it is. Like, ain't no love lost, but you know what I'm saying. Hey, mostly family, but some friends too. And it ain't no, like, it is what it is. I don't know. But yeah, that's my personal experience. Did the type of cancer you had affect anything that could possibly be long term? So currently I'm not trying to conceive, not looking forward to it really no time soon. But my biggest concern now is wondering if will be able to conceive easily, if I'll be able to have kids without too much of an issue. Because before I got sick, I didn't really want any kids, but you know, being like this whole situation really just made me not want to take life for granted. So I'm like, if I did have kids, 4 kids be my max. So that's just my biggest concern right now, is just being sure that this process or this issue didn't take that option away from me. I know there are other options like surrogacy and things like that, but I would really kind of just rather be able to do it myself, just to get that experience. So yeah, that's like one thing long term. But you also have to keep in mind that when you do go through cancer, you have to continue to go to your oncologist even when you are in remission and you're okay. So I have been going to the oncologist every 2 months, getting scans regularly, things like that. Because I'll be in, obviously when this video comes out, this will be my 3rd year in remission. So I have moved to every 6 months, which I'm so happy for. I am tired of going to the doctor. So yeah, that's like something long term that you really gotta worry about, I guess. What motivated you to keep going every day battling chemo? The finish line. I just was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do or where I was gonna go once this situation was done and over with. And once I was like in remission, like things that I wanted to do, like when I was sick, I couldn't do things like go to an amusement park, like stuff like that. So just knowing that, like, okay, you're done, like you're good for the time being, was kind of like what kept me pushing, even though I did have my times in my mornings where I did not want to go. Like, it still just kept me going. It's been 3 years later. What are you happy about the most, knowing you beat cancer and in remission? I think that I'm really just happy to still be here and not have any health problems. Like right now at this time in my life today, as I'm talking to you, I literally have nothing going on with me. I am 100% healthy. I am fine. And I think that's kind of what makes me the happiest, because you know, there are people who have gone through similar situations, same situation that I have been in the 4th stage, and don't beat it, or you know, still are fighting. And I'm just very grateful, and I'm blessed to still be here and not have to, you know, worry about that. Just to be able to wake up every morning, you know, still be with my mom, my brothers, my family. I think that's what makes me happiest. I'm definitely grateful for, you know, having hair now. I have a car now, obviously. Small things. I'm just grateful for everything. I think that's just what makes me the happiest, is still being here. Like, because a lot of people don't get that. I'm definitely grateful. Did you ever think to yourself, why you? Yes. Literally, like, not every day, but the days that I was tired and I didn't like want to go to chemo or treatment no more, I'm just like, why me? Like, I don't get it. But it's not really something that ever stops, because you still question yourself. Even today, sometimes when I still have to go to the doctor, like, I just recently had to get an iron transfusion because my blood work wasn't was good, but my iron was really low. So my oncologist like, you have to get an iron transfusion. I'm sitting there like, why? Like, why? I just didn't really understand it. So yeah, definitely, I don't really think, like, I'm human. Like, I'm very human. So that's just something that you're gonna naturally ask yourself, why you? The next question is, were you ever just grateful for what you were going through during the time? Honestly, no, because I was still very much processing it, so I was not seeing it in like that I'm seeing it now that I'm able to just look back and take in what I didn't appreciate or notice before. So no, not at the time, but now, yes, I'm very grateful for that. Like I said before, it's just a situation that I really wouldn't take back. I wouldn't change anything, because I feel like it changed me for better. So I'm not really I'm not really mad about it, if that makes sense. The next one says, do you have a new outlook on life now that you have been through something like this? Definitely. Like I said before, everything is just different to me now. Like, I don't really too much sweat small things. Like, I have times where I am dramatic, or I have times where something small does kind of piss me off, which is something that I work on, because sidebar, I would get so irritated by small things. Like, oh my God. Like, especially, like, I would just get cranky sometimes. Like, oh, I just want it this way, and that's the way I want it. But yeah, I definitely do. Life is precious. Time moves fast, and we just have to use it and just be grateful for what you got. I don't dwell on things that I don't have. And for me, what this situation taught me is, I know this might sound cliche, the power of the tongue is so real. Like, manifestation is so real, and this situation really taught me that. So speak what you believe. Like, that's just what it is. The next one says, how did you feel when you found out you beat cancer and when you got to ring the bell? Okay, so there's a difference between the two. When people ring the bell, or when I rang the bell, you ring the bell because it's your last treatment. So once you ring the bell, you won't have to go to get chemo anymore, like, unless, you know, it doesn't help or anything. So when I rang the bell, which I'll insert the clip. Ring the bell. When I rang the bell, it wasn't because I was declared in remission. It was just my last treatment. I didn't get declared into remission until like 2 months later. December, was it December? No, that was November 20 something. Yep. So January 10th, this day that you're watching this, was when I got declared in remission. So there's a difference in the two, but I was really excited, and my mom's birthday is January 6th. And so for her birthday, I'm like, that's really all that I want, like, to give you, basically. Is just for me to be free of this, like, not have to deal with it, no more treatment, all of that stuff. And it was beautiful. I loved ringing the bell. I was very sad because my granddad's funeral was literally that weekend, and I really wanted him to be there, and he wasn't. But you know, God works in mysterious ways. The next question says, do you have any advice to anyone going through the same thing? Yes. And one thing that I think is so important is if you're not the one that's going through it, and it may be a family member or a close friend or someone you may know that you know is going through it, and you are their support system, don't be so sad around them. Like, yes, you want to feed off that person's energy, but don't pity them. Just like how I said, I didn't really like people to be too sad around me. Don't go around them always being sad or moping and all of that stuff. Like, you just always want to make sure you're uplifting them, being there for them, stuff like that, because stuff like that is genuinely appreciated. Like, I always appreciated my friends and the people who were there for me, because they didn't do that to me. Like, they just made it comfortable for me. And if they did cry, like I told y'all about my mom, if they did do all this stuff, they didn't do it around me, and I appreciated that, because that just wasn't the space that I was in. And you never know what space that they're in. But even if they do come to you crying or sad or stuff, just be that shoulder to cry on and step out of your feelings for that second. And then once you're alone or away from them, then you can step back into that. But that's important. If you are the person who is going through it like I was, my advice would just be keep fighting and don't give up. Even if things don't end up turning out the way you want, go out swinging from the gate. Finding out, give yourself a day or two or however long you feel like you need to be sad about it, but don't dwell on it. Put your strength to use, because this is not the end, and it is definitely beatable. Like, don't look at it as a death sentence. Don't look at it as, you know, a stepping stone. Use it to learn. You use it to live more. Use it as your reason. Like, this is why I'm here. This is what I've been through, and it made me stronger. Like, don't be so sad. Don't beat yourself up. You know, sometimes you are gonna have days where you don't feel like moving and you're not feeling good, etc. But when you are, and if you can, just always remain positive. Even if you feel like you don't have the support system you need, anything, just always keep your head up. And if you're going through it by yourself, like, use that as a stepping stone. Just always keep your head up. Everybody's situation is different, but it doesn't matter. Like, you're a warrior. God gives his toughest battles to his strongest warriors, and he put you in this place for a reason. Use that reason for your own personal good and take off. Like, you literally can do it. Don't give up. If you need to find a group, a cancer group to talk to, whatever, just do what you got to do, because you can make it. Like, no joke. I'm literally living proof. Stage 4. You can literally make it if you put your mind to it. The next question is, what type of cancer did you have? I have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Our ribbon is a lime green. So you can Google more about it. The next question is, at any point were you scared? In the very beginning, when I first got diagnosed, I was very scared, because I wasn't, like, I hadn't done research. My mom did crazy research all the time, but I didn't. At one point I was a little scared about chemo, and I was like thinking, like, I wonder if I can use like an alkaline diet, or like just going strictly vegan and plant-based and all of that to get rid of it, so I won't have to go through chemo, because I'm so scared. Like, yes, there was a time where I was scared, but once I came to grips with it, and once I gave myself that pep talk, like, we about to use this shit to go up. Like, we not about to do that, because I just didn't want to be sad and all of that stuff. Once I did that, wasn't no more scared. I'm like, whatever happens, and whatever we gonna go through, we gonna ride. Like, it's just that simple. I'm thankful. But I wanted to share that with y'all, because you're gonna be on this journey with me, and I feel like this is a part of me, a special part of me, that I want everybody to know about. And yeah, anybody who's going through it that may watch this, you never know. That was the last question. But be sure to make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram at @TheAirRizzle, same as my YouTube name. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.